Hey, all you zombie fans out there, this is Matt Jarbo, host of the Zurvivalist, the only zombie podcast on the net right now, dealing with the Q&A of zombies. We have Tim from Los Angeles. How you doing tonight, Tim?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great, great. Thanks for being here. So you are, you work for the LAexaminer.com and doing their zombie page, right?
Yes, I started working with Examiner.com as the Los Angeles Zombie Examiner late last year, actually, shortly after I moved out here.
Nice. So you are definitely an expert on all things zombie in Los Angeles. So I'm sure you have an excellent strategy.
Yes, well, I sure hope so. If I don't, I'm not going to be around very long. So.
Well, it's like the biggest gamble, but it works out. So okay, let's since we don't have a lot of time, let's just kick it off. What would you do?
All right. Well, the first thing I thought of when I came out to Los Angeles and being in the area I'm in is that there's just a ridiculous amount of people all crammed into a very small area. That's one of the biggest obstacles you're going to face if you're in Los Angeles and there's zombies running around. There's just going to be the potential to be so many so fast. So the first thing that I thought of is that you need something that you can get to very quickly and that can be defensible to start, I guess, the survival tactics, but that's not where you're going to end up. So to expand upon that, basically, I live in an apartment complex that used to be an old person's home. And what that means is it's all sectioned off. So there's each wing, each hallway actually has its own fire door and everything like that. So that it's kind of like the perfect position to be in because I'm already in an apartment complex that can be closed down and sectioned off very quickly, very easily. And, that way you can control the flow of zombies coming in or often a bigger danger is people fleeing from or trying to survive themselves and who don't really believe in teamwork or, have gone crazy for whatever reason because they've been dealing with, the issue of a zombie outbreak and they're no longer thinking very conscientiously about survival of more than just themselves.
I understand.
So yeah, exactly. So it's the perfect place. You can kind of section all down. And one of the first things I did was anybody who's got any brain in their head is going to have their survival gear. And the thing I did with that was I have survival gear that's stowed in my car and a survival pack that's stowed in the apartment. That way, if I'm on the road when it happens, I've got gear handy in my car. If I'm at home, you've got the gear there.
I see. I was going to ask you about the supplies and everything because it seems like with your apartment building, it sounds like a very, defensible structure. Except, are you supplied? Are you prepared? If not, you could also be trapping yourself.
Right. Yeah, that's a very important thing to think about. And there's not a whole lot of gear that you really need because, well, at least in my case, because I'm in such a large city, there's stores everywhere, especially exactly where I'm located. There's a lot of stores nearby, so I don't really have to worry about stockpiling goods as much as some other people might if they're trying to escape to like a cabin or something, more remote to get away from the zombies. I have a lot of supplies, so the important thing is that I keep myself away from the crowds of zombies, hole up for short periods of times, but then strike out and go get supplies. So really all I have is just some first aid gear, duct tape, because duct tape is probably the number one supply anybody should have because it fixes everything.
Agreed.
And does everything. And rope, that's the other thing that's always helpful. And last but not least, and I don't actually own it, but it's in the section of my apartment that I'm in, is a fire axe.
Oh, nice. Well, do you have any, as an ASCII weaponry, so you have the fire axe, but do you have, any guns, or is there any, do you know if your neighbors have any guns or anything like that?
Well, actually, I'm not sure if any of my neighbors do, and I don't own one because one thing that I'm pretty sure of is that guns really aren't all that helpful. I mean, there's definitely an advantage you get by having a firearm, and it's definitely not going to hurt you to carry one. but the one thing I got was a crowbar. The reason being, it's one of the most versatile tools you can get, and because it's got the hooked kind of end, it's just perfect for killing zombies.
Very true.
You have the leverage and the swing, and you can pretty much take out any zombie.
Okay, well, let's say, just for sake of the argument, that, your apartment no longer is safe and you have to flee. Like, where would you go? Have you thought past that part yet?
Yeah, actually I have. And one of the key things that I thought about in regards to that is that, excuse me, is that you don't want to really hold yourself to any one location, because actually in that instance, pretty much if your apartment, if your living space or your first kind of area that you want to defend yourself from is compromised, you got to be versatile enough. You have to be willing to completely improv where you're going to go next. And so I've thought about several areas, and the beauty about escaping zombies out in this area, although there's going to be tons of them, like I said, there's just so many people packed into such a small area. One of the beauties around here is that there's a lot of buildings that are set up to be, set up against earthquakes. So there's a lot of really sturdy, structured buildings, whether it's supermarkets, office complexes. Nothing's really a high-rise or anything like that. And that presents a lot of really easily accessible locations that zombies may not be able to get to. For instance, the highest buildings around here are, only a handful of stories tall. But that means it's very easy to get up there, but then hold yourself up away from zombies. And the fire axe is actually one of the key components of that. Because if you're getting into a building, for instance, you can hack out stairways, so the zombies can't get up there, but you've got the rope, so you can climb, as needed. You can pull up a fire escape on the buildings that have those, that are enough stories.
Okay. So
a common feature, I don't know if you know this, is that a lot of buildings out here have ladders right to the roof because they're all so low.
Yes.
It's very easy to get up there.
Okay, so you basically would still stick around the Los Angeles area. You wouldn't venture out, like east towards Nevada or the Sierras, or north towards Sacramento and possibly Oregon, or south San Diego. You would just kind of stay central. Would you wait for society to kind of like regain control, or would you go out to exterminate zombies perhaps and try to regain order?
I think in my case, I would try to regain order, and basically, stay local. And one thing that works against my plans, at least to some degree, is that the Los Angeles area, because it's all, tons of people crammed into a small area, but at the same time, it's kind of a sprawl, if you think about it.
True.
Because there's so many tightly packed cities and towns, kind of all pretty much packed right together. So it'd be very difficult to have means to get to, safe wilderness where there's going to be less zombies. All the roads out here, the traffic is horrible. If there's one thing, everybody knows about Los Angeles, the traffic is just terrible. That and the smog, I guess. But
True. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So it's going to be so hard to run past a certain point without, taking too many chances. And that's the thing. Like you got to really consider what your risks are and decide which fights are worth fighting, and trying to beat it out of Los Angeles and get to somewhere where it's just wilderness and green pastures is probably just going to really put you in the firing line of whether it's zombies or other survivors who are trying to get out of there. Transportation is just going to be hell. So it's better to just stick to a local area.
Well, this episode has just flown by, and very, awesomely so. I had the last question. If you're bit, what would you do?
Oh man, that's a tough one, and that's something I didn't think about. Like, I'm not sure if it's because that's the worst possible situation and you just don't want to think about it. I don't know if it's that, or I just really didn't know what the situation would be. I've got a girlfriend and a dog who are definitely in this equation. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's really hard to think about. Do I have one of them? Do I have my girlfriend take me out with the crowbar? Do I try to go off somewhere and make sure they're okay before I change? That's a really tough question, but I think the key thing, and one of the things that sets apart the people who are going to survive longer, is taking the high road. And I think because of that, I think my answer would have to be I would do whatever it takes to make sure, my girlfriend and any other survivors that I'm traveling with are safe, as safe as they can be, I guess, depending on the situation, and safe from me. If I know how long it's going to take to turn into a zombie, get out of there before then. And I don't know, the change sounds agonizing, so I think I'd want to throw myself from a building or something, just make it a little quicker.
I get that. Well, that's actually all the time we have for this week. Tim, thank you very much for being on the show, and I'll put a link to your laexaminer.com page for all of the guys in LA and around the world that want to read up more on what the biggest city in the West Coast is doing for zombies. And for all of you listening at home, you can find us on iTunes, on YouTube, or blip.tv. All the links are in the sidebar. And we'll see you guys next time on The Zurvivalist. I'm Matt Jarbo. Bye.